Good afternoon, class. Welcome to the finals review. The final is very much similar to the midterm. It's the same number of questions where we have 15 multiple choice questions, 3 points each, and 55 true-false, 1 point each, which adds up to 100 points, 100%. The major difference between the midterm and the final that the final is cumulative. It's based on all the materials that we studied in this class. Let me log in into exam. We should probably be using Google Chrome at this point, because there have been some problems with using Internet Explorer for the Blackboard. So after we invoke the browser, we go to CUNY portal, cuny.edu. Then you could bring the pointer here to the login, Blackboard. You're log on. Your password. And then you find the class. Spring 2014 in this case, yes. Okay. To kind of brush up more materials for the exam in addition to the textbook, you can also go to course units. I would recommend the Introduction to LIB100 videos, definitely e-books. Well, e-portfolio is also good material. And then definitely Introduction to Databases, and very importantly, additional databases, because the final actually covers some of the additional databases. There will be some questions, and well, the rest of the material might also be quite useful. Okay, the actual exam, similarly to the midterm, you go to tests and exams, you click on it, then you click on the exams, then, well, for the midterm you clicked on the midterm. Now you can see there is a second link here, final exam. You click on it, gives you some instructions. This test can be saved and resumed later, which means you can access it as many times as you need. Like you log on, you answer a couple of questions, you log out, then in 1 hour, in 2 hours, in 1 day, in 2 days, you log on again, you answer a couple more questions, and so on. Remember, you got 70 questions, so try to kind of manage your time. You'll be given a little bit more than a week to finish this exam, so manage your time. The exam is take home, open book. You can use any materials you want, but of course all your sources, they have to be congruent with the sources that we used in the class. So the sources used in the class are preferable. If you use some other resource that tells you something else other than, say, the textbook tells, then of course the answer contained in the textbook will be the correct one. Okay, the next step, you click begin. Here this bar will be showing you the status of the completion of the questions. You may need to invoke it by clicking here on this arrow. And here's your first question. Intellectual property laws include copyright, patent law, trademark law, and trade secret. Which is true. These are intellectual property laws. You click true. And then, again, as I mentioned before, some people say that it's important to click save answer because supposedly when some people didn't click on it, it wasn't always saved. So to err on the side of caution, click save answer. And after it says saved, you can move on to the next question. And you see the completion status shows that you answered one. By the way, questions are randomized and answers are randomized too. So you're not going to see them in order that they appear on the screen right now. Neither the questions nor the answers. Reference resources usually circulate only over weekends, are usually subject dictionaries, usually contain facts and figures, are usually compilations of monographs.
I would say C.
Well, yes, facts and figures, that's correct. Only keep in mind, it might not be C for you, again, because questions and answers are randomized, then saved, then you move to the next question. Dial-up is the more advanced internet connection than FiOS.
False.
False.
False, yes. And save answer, and so on. Hoover's is website of a politician, software, open source word processor, online database in the field of business paying specific attention to various industries. And it'll be an online database in the field of business. Please watch the additional online databases, as I mentioned, to get more information on the Hoovers. And I'm briefly going to remind you where to find Hoovers. From the library web page, search all. It's in the business section. Should be in alphabetical order. Yes, Hoover's Academic, down in Brad Street. And again, Hoover is not just any business database. Its advantage is the industries. Then you go to the industries, and then you can actually use the search tool. You can browse the industries, say media, and say movie theaters, and so on. Watch the video on the additional databases from the course units folder from the additional databases subfolder to have more information on Hoover's or any other online databases that you will be using for this exam. Public libraries, or PACs, mostly utilize Dewey Decimal Classification System. They wouldn't be utilizing any other, I guess in most situations they won't be utilizing, say, LC, Library of Congress, or SUDAC. They'll be using mostly Dewey Decimal. And if you go to a website of a public library, you can definitely check it. And you remember the Dewey classification system, it was we studied it before actually including the midterm. Schomburg studies on the black experience. That's Schomburg Center is actually one of the 4 research libraries of the New York Public Library, in addition to the main library on 42nd Street and 5th Avenue, City Business Library, and there is also Arts Library there. So Schomburg is one of those 4 research libraries, and it has its own database, which is very useful for lots of research that we conduct at MedGravers. And we have access to that database. And I would say that correct answer to question related to Schomburg studies on black experience would be something like database of information on African experience in the Americas, maybe.
The right answer would be the database.
Well, I'm not giving the right answers. This is just the exam review, and this is an exam. Statistical abstracts. Statistical abstracts is a resource that is also available for us, and it's a major resource that covers statistical research for a plethora of subjects, I would say. Let me show it to you. Let me show you Schomburg also. This is Schomburg studies on the black experience, which is part of the ProQuest database. And again, check the additional online databases folder in the Blackboard site for this class for additional information on the online databases. And statistical abstracts. which used to be available on paper. Statistical abstract is like right here. These are subjects, like say birth, deaths, marriages, and divorces, for instance, and then births. And then these are numbers of the tables. Then you click on it, and it shows you the table with the statistics. Thomas is a legislative information resource which is part of the Library of Congress website. And you could check it also online. Next question might be asking you about asking a reference question, the Library of Congress website. If you go to the Library of Congress website, which is loc.gov, ask a librarian. And then say it's a business question. You click here, and online form, you follow the steps. You can ask a question, and they do answer those questions, the Library of Congress. Ethnic News Watch is another online database. And you can watch the video for more detail. Ethnic News Watch right here. And it's a ProQuest database. You're familiar with the ProQuest searches. Historical New York Times is another database. And it goes back to the 19th century, but doesn't cover the last 3 years. And you find it in the same fashion. It's also a ProQuest database, by the way. Historical New York Times. This is it. Literature Resource Center, MLA. might ask you if it's one of the EBSCO databases, if it's MLA Manual of Style, if it's MLA and APA Manuals of Style, or none of these categories. And most probably it's none of these categories because it's not an EBSCO, and MLA database shouldn't be confused with MLA Manual of Style, neither with APA Manual of Style for that matter. McGill on Literature. This is an EBSCO database. It's part of the EBSCO family.
What's it? McGill? McGill?
McGill is a university in Canada, in Montreal. It's actually pretty close to New York City, and like 7 hours drive, if I remember that correctly. And there is a database with the same name associated with that university. It's called McGill on Literature, and we can use it on EBSCO platform. Doesn't have to be on EBSCO platform, but in our situation it is. Therefore, it will be one of the EBSCO databases. LIB100. LIB100 is actually our OPAC. And you see, if you click Find Books, and then, I guess, Advanced Search to see the interface that we use for it. And LIB100 is created by a company called Ex Libris. And what Ex Libris does, it takes an Oracle database and customized it to be the library information system. So therefore, you could say that LIB100 is an Oracle-based database. Reference resources. And reference resources should be consulted. You wouldn't read them from cover to cover. That's what you would do with treatises, probably. But reference books, you just consult, you look up something. You wouldn't read them in reverse dictionary order, which would be nonsense. And reference resources, they usually contain facts and figures. They wouldn't be compilations of monographs, and they might include subject dictionaries, but they're not limited to the subject dictionaries. Directories. Directory is actually, could be a reference resource similar to Encyclopedia of Associations. Well, what it wouldn't be for our purposes, it wouldn't be library director's office or any corner office in the library. And it is not a circulating book. And, well, it is a resource similar to Encyclopedia of Associations. And Encyclopedia of Associations is basically like a encyclopedia containing information on various associations. It used to be in paper format. Nowadays, it's a database. Subject dictionary is, like, for instance, it gives you Black's Law Dictionary and English-Japanese Dictionary. Black's Law Dictionary is a subject dictionary. English-Japanese dictionary is more like language dictionary. And Black's Law Dictionary is a dictionary of the law. Like if you need to look up a legal concept, a quick way of doing it would be using the Black's Law Dictionary. It's like the most common legal dictionary. There are others, but this one is the most common and probably one of the best. Reference resources do not circulate and are guides to the information, which is true. References do not circulate. Usually they are non-circulating. Almanac is usually a circulating resource, which is false, because almanacs are part of the reference collection usually. Bibliography could be a reference resource, which is true. There are reference books called bibliographies. Yearbook is a reference resource. The same here. It's true. Periodicals are usually magazines and journals, which is true. Magazines and journals are periodicals. Serials include periodicals, newspapers, yearbooks, proceedings of societies, which is true. So you can see that serials is a wider category. Serials include periodicals, newspapers, yearbooks, and proceedings of societies. Popular periodicals might include newspapers. Well, according to our textbook, it would be false. Like, they don't include newspapers in the popular periodicals category. Scholarly periodicals might include peer-reviewed journals, which is true. Peer-reviewed journals, of course, if we think about it, they are scholarly periodicals. Trade periodicals are usually highly scholarly resources, which wouldn't be true, which would be false. Trade periodicals, because trade periodicals are trade periodicals. They're not really scientific, not scholarly. Periodicals or serials can be found in LexisNexis. And we know that it's true because, well, we use LexisNexis on many occasions. Business Source Complete is available on EBSCO platform. That's what we use as a gateway to access EBSCO, right? Business Source Complete. We go to the library website. We can click it from here. Actually, we're using Academic Search Complete, but Business Source Complete is also part of it, and we can check it. If we click Choose Databases.
Down.
Hmm?
Down.
Yes, it's on the bottom right now. Business Source Complete, right here. And this is what it is. If you bring the pointer to this little icon, it tells you what it is. InfoTrack is an aggregated database. Well, InfoTrack is an aggregated database. It includes a number of smaller databases. All periodicals are serials, but not all serials are periodicals. You remember that serials is a bigger category that, amongst other things, includes periodicals, which makes it true. It might be possible to export citations from OPEC into RefWorks, and we did it, and it's true. It is possible to create an entry manually in RefWorks that cites personal communication, which is true, and we've done it. And RefWorks allows us to import bibliographic information from other databases, as well as create entries right there in the RefWorks environment, in the RefWorks interface.
Yes.
It is possible to import references into RefWorks from various OPECs using RefWorks interface, which is true.
True.
And the GPO is Government Printing Office, which publishes GovDocs, which is also true. GPO, United States government is the biggest publisher in the world, and GPO is a division of the United States government, the Government Printing Office, that is in charge of publishing the GovDocs. SUDOC is classification system for GovDocs.
What?
SUDOC, S-U-D-O-C, is a classification system for GovDocs, which is true, and SUDOC stands for Superintendent of Documents.
Yes. I remember.
Autobiography is a biography written by the author about her own life, which is true. Auto, that means self. So it's a biography about herself or himself. Book review is an article about a book that might contain some literary criticism, which is true. That's what book reviews are about. Literary criticism is a critical review of a writing, which is true.
True.
Government documents depositories usually receive GovDocs free of charge. Yes, they do. If it's a full depository, they receive the GovDocs free of charge. If it's a library which is not a depository, but they buy GovDocs here and there, then it's probably not free. But the actual government documents depositories, they do receive it for free. Dial-up is more advanced internet connection than FiOS.
False.
Yeah, this is like dial-up is the first that ever was available,
Yeah.
and FiOS is the most current, most advanced one. Digitization includes turning paper resources into digital documents. Absolutely. Hard copy is a medium that is superior to the electronic copy.
True.
No, it isn't. It's more like a philosophical question, I guess, but
What was the question?
hard copy is basically a paper copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a printout of what's on the computer.
I'm talking about superior.
It's the output.
No,
Superior.
no.
What? Why paper is superior to the computer? Well,
It's not.
It's not.
A paper usually lost.
So it's false, right?
yes, it is false. False drops are the web pages that are not relevant to keyword searches.
Full drops?
False drops are the web pages
True.
that are not relevant to keyword searches, exactly, which is true. Stop words include articles in the beginning of the title search formulation. Articles meaning the and a. Those are stop words. Nowadays it's probably less important, but in the past, when the search tools were not as fast as they are now, it was important to get rid of the stop words that would slow down the search. And if you do a title search, title of the book, title of the article, and it starts with the or a, you would need to remove it.
Yeah.
Okay. Nowadays it's not really that crucial, but in some situations, if your search is slow or something, then you might think of removing the articles in the beginning.
So that is
True.
Yes. Copyright is the same as patent law, which is false. They both belong to the intellectual property laws category, but they're not the same. And we already talked about intellectual property laws today. You upload your document into the server and you download the information from the server to your PC, which is true. Annotated bibliography includes annotations, which are additional paragraphs that describe the sources cited in the bib, which is true, and we're all working on an annotated bibliography right now, which our final project, which is our online annotated bibliography, and we all know what it is. Blog is short for weblog, which is a website that is usually an opinion forum. True. Binary code includes ones and zeros.
True.
True.
Yeah.
Analog is a technology superior to digital.
False.
False, yeah, it's an older generation. Byte is one character of information, usually 8 bits.
True.
True. Mark is machine-readable cataloging record, which is true. That's how you decipher mark. Machine-readable cataloging record, mark. Meta tag is HTML tag with the info about the page. It is used by the search engines. It doesn't influence the way page is displayed, which is true. You don't see those meta tags, but it's like for cataloging and for searching purposes on the websites. It's like sort of behind the scenes tag, which is used by the search engines oftentimes. Mozilla Firefox is a competitor of the Internet Explorer.
Yes.
Yeah. Refereed journal is the same as peer-reviewed journal,
Which journal?
which is true. It means absolutely the same. Usually we say peer-reviewed, but refereed means the same thing. You could see refereed. It's a more rare word, I guess. It's used to. PDF is portable document format.
True.
True. Social sciences include history and nuclear physics.
Social.
Social sciences include history and nuclear physics.
False.
False. They don't. History is humanities and nuclear physics is hard science.
Yeah.
Social sciences are like psychology, finance, nursing.
Yeah.
Those are social sciences that deal with people. I mean, history also deals with people, but it belongs to the field of humanities, like English language or history. Stemming is the ability of search engines to find variations on the inflections following the stems of the keywords. Guys, it's like truncation, only it's done automatically. Like truncation, you remember the asterisk, we do it manually. But if search engine does it by itself, which most of them do nowadays, sometimes they call it stemming.
That's true.
Well, it's up to you to judge. It's an exam. Virtual library could be the part of the library that is online.
True.
Yeah, true. Like Yahoo started as a subject guide, as a virtual library, actually. It's a dinosaur and it survived all its competitors. Information storage and retrieval, ISR, and human-computer interaction, HCI, are the subfields of the information science. You remember we studied it? when I brought my handy-dandy brain,
Yeah.
and well, ISR and HCI, subfields of information science, which is true. Usability studies are done to improve the software or websites. We talked about usability studies on the same lesson, right? Usability studies. That's when you check the software or websites, or maybe hardware too sometimes. Nowadays we do it from the user perspective. Used to be done from the systems perspective. Okay. User friendliness is a part of the usability research. That's subdivision of the usability research, user friendliness. Ergonomics is related to usability research,
Yes.
which is true. User focus is focusing the research on the perceptions of the information system by the user. I just talked about it like 2 minutes ago, yes. Systems focus is the most current trend in the usability research. Systems focus? No, it's not true. It's the older paradigm. Systems focus when the experts were kind of designing the system using their own judgment, but that's the systems focus, when the experts used to design it using kind of their own perceptions. But then they realized that what is good, when the usability is good for the expert, it doesn't mean that it's good for the user. Users, they could have quite different perceptions. That's why, like 2-3 decades ago, we switched to the user focus, and now in the usability field, the usability is studied from the point of view of the user, and it's called user focus. So systems focus, the old paradigm, user focus, the current paradigm. Fair use doctrine allows limited use of others' intellectual property for the educational purposes.
True.
Which is true. Fair use is part of the copyright. MLA, Manual of Style, is always used for the research in the field of finance.
True.
Well, I was thinking they would rather use APA, because APA they use in finance. But it's not etched in stone.
So APA is used for all social sciences?
Yes.
APA is used for
Social
social sciences and sciences. And MLA is usually used for the...
I don't mind the business and everything.
MLA is usually used for humanities. Business fields are usually social sciences, and more often they will use APA. However, it's not really etched in stone. It could be, you could use it. Well, in our situation, being students, we have to use the manual of style that professor recommends or tells us to use. But say outside of the school, if you write your own article, you'll use the manual of style required by the journal for the publication. Traditionally, on the undergraduate level, we use APA and MLA. On the graduate level, you might see another one being used often, Chicago. Chicago. When you start publishing your own articles, for instance, Harvard Manual of Style is also used pretty often for some journals. But there are plenty of those manuals of style. And it's not etched in stone which one to use. It's more like a tradition. But APA is the most common, developed by American Psychological Association for their own needs, but given its logic and simplicity and ease of learning kind of used in many other fields. Chicago Manual of Style is traditionally used in all of the departments of the University of Chicago. False, I made it up. Yes, and they could use anything they want.
Yeah.
Well, they did develop it, and they do publish the newer editions of the Chicago Manual of Style, but it doesn't mean that they mandatorily have to use it. Turnitin and Safe Assign are plagiarism detection software, which is true. At Medgar, we used to use Turnitin, then we switched to Safe Assign, and Safe Assign is now linked to the Blackboard. So sometimes submitting papers, actually submitting your extra credit paper for this class, you'll encounter the Safe Assign software, which is plagiarism detection software. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good luck with the exam.